kitchen. So recently a few of you have been asking about the recipe for the vanilla sponge cakes that I use in quite a lot of my video tutorials. So for this week's video I thought I would share that with you and show you exactly how I make them. Okay, let's get started. So in order to make my vanilla sponge cake, I've just got my Kenwood mixer here. So I'm using this one with the large paddle attachment, but if you haven't got a large mixer, you can just use a hand electric whisk, or you can just mix your cake by hand. I can then start to add all the ingredients. So first of all, I'm going to start with 12 ounces of self-raising flour. So 12 ounces is 340 grams, but I will put all the measurements in the description below. So I'm just going to use a sieve and just pop that into my bowl. I'm then going to add the exact same amount of caster sugar. So I've just got 12 ounces of caster sugar, or 340 grams. I've then got 12 ounces of butter. Now this butter is just at room temperature. If you wanted to find an alternative to butter, you could just use a spread, but you need to make sure that it's a spread for baking. Now next I'm going to add 4 eggs to this. Now if any of you have seen my vanilla cupcake recipe, this is very similar to that, and I just find it such a great recipe to use. So I just changed the different quantities to whether I'm baking cupcakes or making a larger cake. So the last thing that I'm going to add to my mixture is my flavouring. So in this glass I just have 2 tablespoons of vanilla extract, but you can use any flavouring that you like. So once all of my ingredients are in my bowl, I'm just going to attach it to my mixer, and on a medium speed, just mix it up until all of those ingredients are combined into a nice smooth mixture. So while the mixture is mixing, I thought I would just remind you that if you like this video, then don't forget that you can subscribe to the CakesbyLynz YouTube channel for more videos like this. Okay, so I'm just making sure that all that mixture is completely combined and you're left with this nice smooth consistency. Now if you did want to have a coloured cake, then at this stage you might want to add some edible food gel. Now the gels are always the best ones to use just because they are quite concentrated and you're not going to add any more liquid to your mixture. But now this is ready, the next thing that I'm going to do is just prepare my tins. So the cake tins that I'm going to use are 2 6-inch cake tins. Now these ones just have separate bottoms. So what I'm going to do first is just prepare them so that my cake isn't going to stick to the side. I've just got some kitchen paper and I've just put some butter on there. Just pop my butter all the way around the edge, making sure that I get right into that bottom corner. And I'm also going to go around the edge of the bottom. I'm then going to take spare flour and just dust that inside my tin. So I've just popped it in there. So I'm just going to run that all the way around the edge, just coating that butter. And I'm just going to dust out any excess flour that hasn't stuck. I'm then going to pop my bottom into my cake tin and just pop some more flour just so those edges are nice and covered. I've just cut out 2 circle pieces of parchment paper that just fit nicely into the bottom of those tins. I'm now going to divide my mixture into my 2 tins. Okay, so once my mixture has been added, I'm just going to go around and smooth that down. I'm then going to create a well in the middle of my mixture. So just pull that cake away. Now these are ready, I'm just going to pop these into my oven at 180 degrees. Now I just use a normal oven rather than my fan oven, and the reason for this is because a fan oven will cook the outside of the cake a lot quicker than the inside. So I'm going to put these in the middle shelf for around 45 minutes, but you might want to check on them towards the end of the bake just because some ovens are slightly different. Okay, so I have already checked these, but just before you take your cakes out of the oven, you just want to take a skewer and just push that in the center of the cake. Now if the stick comes out completely bare and there's no cake mixture on there, then they are baked all the way through. Okay, so once I've allowed the cakes to cool in their tins for around 10 minutes, I'm just going to take a knife. So this one is just a straight edge knife, and I'm just going to run that around the edge of my tins. I'm then just going to turn out my cakes. Now, because we do have this dome on the top of the cake, I'm just going to flip my cakes over just so the flat edge is on the bottom. Now I'm just going to leave my cakes on my cooling tray just until they've completely cooled. I'm going to wrap them in some cling film or plastic wrap and just pop them in the fridge for around half an hour to an hour. Now the reason that I like to do this is just because I need to take the top of the cakes off and also divide them into my layers. It's a lot easier to do when the cakes are slightly more firm. Now if I'm not in a complete hurry to make my cake, I do usually leave my cakes in the fridge overnight just to completely firm up so that they're a lot easier to cut, and especially if I'm going to be carving my cakes into different shapes. The great thing is once your cakes have been removed from the fridge and they come back to room temperature, they will go nice and soft and fluffy like they are now. So once your cakes have been chilled in the fridge, I'm just going to take off the plastic wrap and then using a serrated edge knife, I'm just going to take the top off the cake. I can then turn it over, and depending on how coloured the bottom is, I just like to remove just a layer from the bottom just so you've got that nice cake. I'm then going to divide each of my cakes into two. So I'm just going to work from the middle and just cut those into inch slices. There you have a slice of your vanilla sponge cake. So from these two cakes, I will get 4 different layers. Once your layers are all stacked, you have a nice 4-inch cake. These can now be filled and covered in your decoration of choice. So for this one, I'm just going to fill it with some vanilla buttercream to match the flavouring of the cake. So for the buttercream, I've just used 500 grams of icing sugar, which I've mixed with 250 grams of salted butter. Now you can use unsalted, I just prefer the taste. And when you're making buttercream, you have to remember you need to use real butter. You can't use any spreads because they are too soft. To that I've also added 1 tablespoon of vanilla extract and 2 1/4 tablespoons of milk. And I've blended that all together in my electric mixer. Now I will put a link in the description below to a more detailed video on how I make my vanilla buttercream if you'd like to check that out. I can then use my vanilla buttercream to sandwich between the different layers of my cake. So here we have the finished vanilla sponge cake. Now I really hope you've enjoyed this video tutorial and will enjoy using this recipe for yourselves. I personally love this recipe and find it so helpful if I'm just making a round cake or if I need to carve a cake. Also, if you haven't already and you'd like to see more videos like this, then don't forget you can subscribe to the CakesbyLynz YouTube channel. You can also hit that notification bell next to the subscribe button, and this will just alert you every time a new video is uploaded. So until next time, bye!